Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Sorry, can you repeat back, please?
This is an Imperial patrol. Stand by for transponder scan.
ID found.
This is Alderaan 129-12505.
Stand by, Hallcraft. Run it.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. My name is John, and this week you just got me. That's it. A little bit shorter of an episode this week. Help you catch up on your other podcasts. Maybe go back and re-listen to an episode of The Pint. Or if you've missed one, go back and catch it up. But this week, first week of December, hope the holiday time is finding you all well. It's going to start getting crazy pretty soon. I'm going to be talking about, there's no mouse in my pockets, there's no Wii, the Disney Plus Star Wars television show Andor. So we're going to get into that in a second. Again, I'm going to say we a lot, but that's just the way I'm used to doing things. So real quick before I talk about Andor and how I feel about Andor, I want to highlight a couple of our Pint Insiders' opinions of the show. And then you can kind of, as you listen, see how I line up with those guys and gals. I think I only got guys on this one, but so I put it out to them on the Pint Insider, which is our Patreon page, $2.50 a month, Patreon/The Pint. All kinds of extras. You get to vote on shows, all kinds of goodies. So take a look at it if you haven't. We really would appreciate that. But anyways, Let's hear what some of these folks said. All right, first up, Kevin Salvatore, I call him Sal, from Robert Barron's Inc. It's almost Christmas time, Hanukkah, any kind of gift giving. You want to check these guys out, robertbarronsinc.com. Fantastic pop culture, very humorous t-shirts, bags, aprons, bandanas, buttons. Love these guys. Sal said he really enjoyed it, liked the styling, Blade Runner vibes at times. Actual good character development versus just relying on IP and fan service. Our buddy Keith Larson, he said he couldn't care less, which is not surprising from Keith. Disney Star Wars is, and I think this is an Italian word he used, garbaggio. Our buddy Ian Bellward, who good friend of ours. We did the Highway to Hell episode over on the Patreon for him. Again, if you don't have the Patreon, become a Pint Insider $2.50. You could hear special episodes like Highway to Hell. He says, I started watching it, felt it was kind of slow, so I didn't really get into it. Not a huge Star Wars person, but Mandalorian had me hooked. I dug the other series a lot like Boba Fett and Obi-Wan. At some point, I'll give Andor another shot. And then our good buddy Lonnie Chant, who I've known since high school. Let's see. He says, the best of the Disney Star Wars, and I don't mean to damn with faint praise. Really good TV that tells its increasingly complex story in fantastic 3-episode arcs. I love that it's basically Star Wars spycraft and world building, and yet you really feel for some of these characters at the end. And then I think he's responding to Keith here, because Keith was the only one that was really negative, but he put down, I don't blame you for ignoring this based on Disney's track record with Star Wars, but you're doing yourself a disservice by not giving it a chance, especially if you enjoyed Rogue One. So that's some of the Pint Insiders. Again, check it out. Patreon/The Pint. That's some of their opinions. Let's talk a little bit about Andor and the behind the scenes stuff, and then we'll get to my opinion on it. All right. So Andor was created by Tony Gilroy. Tony Gilroy has a history with Star Wars. He was brought in at the end of production of Rogue One. So this guy obviously kind of knows the Andor character and this time period that it's set in. He did reshoots. He did rewrites, second unit shooting, and he helped edit the final product. So he he has a very big hand in what you ended up seeing at the end of Rogue One. You might know him from other things. He wrote the Bourne trilogy, and he wrote and directed the Bourne Legacy, the one with Jeremy Renner, which I've never seen and most people say isn't very good. He wrote 5 episodes of the 12-episode run here in the first season of Andor. Toby Haynes, Susanna White, and more directed as well. And there were more writers involved as well. So, and this started, I believe, I didn't write this down. This started, I believe, Labor Day weekend was the first episode, and the last episode was the week of Thanksgiving. So it was a couple months, 12 episodes. All right, let's talk about who stars in Andor.
Shabuya roll call.
All right, returning from Rogue One and reprising the role of Cassian Andor, we have Diego Luna. You might know him from Open Range. Great Western, by the way. If you've never seen Open Range, I highly recommend it. Also The Terminal with Tom Hanks. And Y Tu Mama Tambien, which is a Pedro Almodovar movie, which I saw many years ago. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting if you've never seen it. Stellan Skarsgård, who we know from Thor and Deep Blue Sea. He plays Luthen Rael. Luthen is a early rebel, but he has a backstory where he's kind of a superhero rebel because he has a alter identity where he essentially is like an antiques dealer on Coruscant. So he has a front. All the rebels essentially have to have fronts at this point because they're doing this subversively. They don't want to get caught by the Empire. He wears a wig, which I thought was a little bit of a weird touch. I think they could have done something differently when he is in his normal antiquities dealer role. But anyways, it's still a pretty interesting facet of the character, is that he's kind of living these two lives. You know, and then you also get, like, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but you get someone like Saw Gerrera, the returning Forrest Whitaker, and that guy he's just a fucking guerrilla fighter. So you kind of get an idea of like how people are doing things differently in the rebellion. Adria Arjona plays Bix Colleen. You might know her from Morbius. We did an episode on Morbius a few months ago. She was also in the Belko Experiment. She basically plays one of Cassian's friends on his home planet of Ferrix. She's, I don't know if they ever say it. She seems to be a mechanic, some kind of junker. 95% of the characters in the Star Wars universe are junkers or mechanics, so she fits right in. But she does not look like a junker or a mechanic, if you know what I'm saying. Kyle Soller. He was in Fury, the Brad Pitt tank movie from a few years ago. And Anna Karenina. He plays Cyril Karn. Interesting character. He's a bureaucrat. He works for a non-Empire security firm, and he becomes obsessed with capturing essentially someone that murdered 2 of the employees for the company he works for. It turns out to be Andor. So that's his through line. Very interesting character. I'm gonna pretty much go right out and say that no character in the history of television or movies has had more cereal eating scenes than Cyril. He eats cereal. Maybe his name might have been Cereal to begin with. He eats cereal 19 times in this show. But the guy's good. He has that face, man. This guy has that fucking face. You want to punch him. You want to punch him. But at the same time, you kind of get his point of view. He's just obsessed with doing what he thinks is right. And let's be honest, Cassian is not necessarily a good character either. Which is interesting because you're basing your show off of this guy who essentially murders people. He does some, now it's all for reasons, and we'll get into that a little bit, but he's not he's not a white hat. Let's put it that way. Also, I want to point this out. I did not write the actress's name down, and I apologize for this, but there's a subplot where Cyril ends up having to go move back in with his mother. And the mother, the actress who plays the mother, her voice might be the most annoying sound I've ever heard on a television show. And I'm fairly certain that was a choice by the actress and also probably by Tony Gilroy and the people that put this together. Because she's supposed to be kind of like a croning, harpy mother to this character, Cyril, and you're supposed to kind of put together maybe why he is the way he is based on the way she deals with him. But every time she'd come on screen, she's only in a few episodes and only moments at a time. I wanted to rip my fucking ears out of my head. She was fucking annoying, but well written. Genevieve O'Reilly reprises her role as Mon Mothma. Now, she did not play Mon Mothma in Return of the Jedi, but she did play Mon Mothma in Revenge of the Sith in a small part. She voiced her in some of the cartoons, and now, I think she had a scene in Rogue One, or it got cut out. I cannot remember. I'm actually going to rewatch Rogue One after having seen this, because I haven't seen it in a couple years. But she is playing Mon Mothma again. Mon Mothma, this actress was in a movie called Token, about the author of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and also The Matrix Reloaded. Mon Mothma's storyline essentially is she's this kind of powerful senator who is in the midst of funding and trying to start a rebel alliance. So she's involved as well. Denise Gough plays Dedra Miro. She was in the Ridley Scott Robin Hood. Underrated. That's a good movie with Russell Crowe. Another film called Colette. Never heard of it. She plays Dedra Miro, who is a officer of the ISB, which is kind of like the Empire's version of Internal Affairs. Security. I think it's an Internal Security Bureau. These are kind of like the internal security of the Empire. They get together, they kind of create policy, kind of like a very forward, not an HR department, but like a very forward, like, standards and practices department. She ends up running afoul of the Cyril Karn character. He ends up losing his job over some errors he made, errors in judgment, and also making himself look very stupid, letting Cassian get away, essentially. The Empire come in and take over for his company and basically say, we used to let you guys run this, and now you fucked up, we're coming in. So she kind of runs afoul of Cyril, and they have a few different scenes throughout the series where they come in contact with each other. This is by far the creepiest possible couple that's maybe ever been in a TV show. Their scenes together actually made my skin crawl. The one in particular is, in the very last episode, he saves her from a real fate, I'll tell you. She was about to get fucking stomped. And they have this scene where he pulls her into into a house or something to hide, and they're about an inch away. You're wondering, are they going to kiss? Are they going to start slapping each other? They're both gross. They're both gross human beings, and it was very uncomfortable, but good dynamic. Very good dynamic. This takes place 5 years before Rogue One, by the way. So in Rogue One, we meet Cassian, and he's part of a essentially formed rebel alliance. This is 5 years prior. So the idea of this story is Cassian, and I won't get too far into everything, but Cassian lives on this planet Ferrix, and it starts off where you think in the first episode it's going to be about him looking for his missing sister. In his pursuit of his missing sister, he runs afoul of a couple security guards for this company that apparently is, I guess, kind of sublet through the Empire to do private security work on a planet. And he kills them. He kills these guys, and everything shifts from that point. You essentially get 3 episode arcs that kind of carry through. So the overall arc structure is we get some flashbacks to his childhood and how he ends up getting adopted by Marva Andor and Clem Andor, who are a scavenger couple. You don't see too much of his childhood. You find out that Clem, his stepfather, ends up getting killed, and Marva raises him. He also has a droid. I think it's a very cool droid. I know that a lot of times in Star Wars they try to make these cute droids to sell toys and stuff, and for some reason, not everything in Star Wars works for me. But whenever they introduce a cute character to sell fucking toys, I like that character. And in this one, he has a droid. Now, the character's name is B2, and he is essentially a kind of, it seems like maybe like a worker droid. Almost picture an astromech droid, but looks almost more like a wide body red, I don't know, trash can. It is very much involved in the family. It thinks of Marva as almost its mom and Cassian as his brother, and that's all very cool and all. It stammers and it seems to have maybe some issues with its memory, which is all cool, and it kind of gives it a vibe of almost being like anxious, which I get, I understand. That's a trait that many people exhibit. The one thing this bothered me was the actual full name of this robot is B2 EMO. So it's B2 Emo. I fucking hate that. I'm going to admit, I know that's stupid. I know that's just a small thing, but don't be so on the fucking nose, right? Just name it like fucking, 7TD4, and it could still exhibit those behaviors and not be named B2 Emo. I fucking hate that. It's almost going to stop me from eventually buying the figure, because I will buy the figure, but I hate that name. And then some of the arcs as it goes along, the Karn character and the Empire start to look for Cassian. The Luthen Rail character introduces himself to Cassian and essentially hires him kind of as a mercenary to help out with a early rebellion heist of an Empire. I think it's a munitions factory, but they're going there to steal money. Eventually, Cassian ends up getting captured, which is funny when you get to it. He gets away with the actual crime, but because the crime happens, the Empire cracks down heavily, and this is kind of part of the ISB and the inner politics of this whole thing. They crack down so heavily that they just start arresting people for nothing, and he gets arrested for nothing. And then you move into the next arc, which is fucking fantastic, by the way. It's a 3-episode arc on this prison planet, Narkina 5. And essentially, it's an Empire-run prison, penal colony, where they are, the prisoners can't wear shoes. The floors are all electrified. That's how they keep them in control. And they essentially run on a schedule where all the prisoners are working at different times and different shifts and creating something. I know I talk spoilers all the time here, but if you have not seen the show, or if you've seen it and didn't think to watch for a mid-credit scene, rewatch the last episode. I think it's like, it's definitely after the credits. It's like 4 minutes or so, and you'll see, if you were wondering what they were building, what it was they were building. Because they're building this one part, and that's all they show you. And it kind of looks like a 5-star big metal piece, a 5-spoked item. You don't know what it is. And I as I watched, I wondered, is it part of the Death Star? Is it part of a TIE fighter? Is it a part of, you're figuring they're doing something. Watch through the end and you'll see. I won't give that one up. I'll give other things up, but I won't give that one up. It kind of gets back into all the characters reconverging on Ferrix, and a lot of them have come together through the wake of what Andor has done in this whole thing. And they converge back on his home planet to either capture him or to get a hold of him. And the last episode, I'll tell you right now, is fucking incredible television. So he returns to Ferrix because he gets word eventually that his mother, Marva, who stayed on the planet, passes away. And he comes back to go to her funeral. And Marva was very much a rebel at heart. And there is a great scene of her giving a speech through hologram to the denizens of Ferrix about the Empire. At one point she says, I didn't write it down, but she says there's an open wound at the heart of the galaxy, and she's talking about the Empire. I love Star Wars. I grew up on Star Wars, but I've been kind of disaffected by it in the last 15 years because their average is not good. Their batting average isn't very good with me, right? I love Mandalorian, I love Rogue One, but the Force Awakens trilogy, I don't care about. Obi-Wan was a fine show. I enjoyed it. It could have been cut down. Boba Fett was a fucking waste of time in the long run. But there is some real good stuff going on here. And that last episode, man, tears in my eyes during that scene, and just witnessing kind of the spark and the beginning of a rebellion in one particular area. There are rebellions already happening. Saw Gerrera is, as I mentioned, he has a little part in this. He's already operating. Luthen Rail is operating, but you get to see a planet or a city at the very least, like, wake up and just go to town against the Empire. And it was very fucking cool. Very enjoyable. All right, so let's get into my likes and dislikes. I've already said a couple likes, but we'll get into my likes and dislikes here.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
One of my likes is getting to see the inner workings of the Empire. The detention penal colony, all of that was very awesome. The ISB, just seeing like a different, not the Star Destroyer commanders or stormtroopers, getting to see like a working agency inside of the Empire was very cool to me. The cast is super solid in this. I didn't even mention, I didn't read everybody off when I read it off. Andy Serkis is in this, particularly in the penal. He's in the penal section. He's one of the prisoners. He's kind of a foreman of the prisoners. Andy Serkis is fucking awesome, no matter what he does, whether he's playing Gollum or he's playing, fucking King Kong or whatever. The guy is he's a performer, and he's got a voice and a look that he's gravelly, and his character is blinded by the fact that he's convinced he's going to be getting out of this jail soon, and you get to see a man's dreams like get fucking crushed to the ground when he realizes through plot machinations, and I won't get all the way into that because it's a bit too much, but that the Empire has no plans on letting anybody leave this penal colony. And then you get to see, again, the spark of revolution happen in somebody else, and he's awesome. Just there's some really great people interspersed in this too. Diego Luna is great. Stellan Skarsgård is always great. Pretty much everybody in the main cast is really good, but again, people like Andy Serkis, Eben Moss Bacharach, who I just finished watching The Bear on FX, and he was in that, which is a very different show, but he was great in that. He plays a rebel in the heist arc, and you might know him from, he was on the Punisher Netflix show. He played Microchip. He was on The Last Ship, which is a show I enjoyed a lot, but he's a great character actor. So there's just a lot of solid acting in this thing, and the writing is really solid as well. It's 12 episodes, which I thought when I heard that, like, we'll get to it, my dislikes. 12 episodes is long, but I was never bored. One of the things a lot of people are saying about this show, and Ian kind of said it at the beginning, was that, it's slow moving. This is Star Wars for like a kind of adult audience. And by that, I don't mean that against anybody saying they think it's slow, but you might be going into this with the thought of, oh, it's going to fucking lightsabers, and it's going to have fucking starship battles, and it's going to have this, that, and the other thing. And that's not what this show is aiming for, at least in the first season. It's a slow burn. Everything kind of comes together in the end. And honestly, I think the last episode, everything comes together fucking perfectly. God damn. I'm surprised I'm enjoying the show as much as I am talking about it right now. I didn't think it started slow. I liked it from episode 1, but it did take some time to start getting to where I really felt like it was grabbing me more. I didn't mind the slow burn, but I just felt like, okay, what's going to pull me in here? And within 2 or 3 episodes, I was pretty invested in this. Let's talk a couple dislikes, because there's a couple. Again, I just kind of brought it up. 12 episodes is fine. It probably could have been 10. There's probably a little bit here and there that could have been trimmed down just a little bit. When they introduced Mon Mothma in the beginning, you know what they're going for. They want to show you her social life and the fact that she's hiding this secondary life of a rebel against the Empire. But there seem to be a few dinner party scenes that kind of reiterate just like we're trying to show that she's living in one world but acting in another. That's minor, because as the show goes along, she ends up in an extreme moral quandary of what she has to do to continue to fund the portion of the Rebel Alliance that she's funding. It really works really well. I just felt like maybe the first couple episodes they brought her in they kind of were going back and I felt like they were reiterating a point we already were getting. For a show called Andor, he is the central character, and that's great, and everything revolves around him, but I still feel like I would have liked a little bit more Diego Luna. I would have liked a little bit more of Andor. We did spread it out quite a bit. So he is the central piece that everybody's either looking for, and everything revolves around. So I do get that, but I still feel like I would have liked to have seen a little bit more. It also left me very excited to see what they do in season 2. Season 2 is actually starting filming this month, I believe, which means we probably won't see it on Disney Plus for a year or two, but I'm very excited about that. Well, I'll throw this in again. B2 Emo. That's fucking stupid. Don't do that. That was fucking stupid. Just name him QX74. You don't have to be so on the nose that this anxiety-ridden little droid is B2 Emo. I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it does for some reason. Some of the highlights, just in terms of if you want to talk about just straight up action, which I'm fine with that. Like, look, this is a political show, but you do get your payoff in the action scenes. The heist on the Empire base where they go in to steal all the credits was fantastic. The riot in the prison is one of my favorite things I've seen in a Star Wars TV show, period. The prison riot is fucking, it'll make your fucking, you get all clenched up because you know that Andor is going to survive, but you don't know about anybody else. And not that you've really invested too much in these guys, but when they start to go down, you're like, fuck, I like that guy. Fuck, he's gone. And then the final battle, essentially the again, another riot, I guess you could say, on Ferrix is excellent. Earlier on, there's a on Ferrix as well. There's kind of a shootout and chase scene. So you get that as well. So it's not just all slow moving. You're going to get your good stuff as well. You're going to get your action moments, but there's no Jedi bullshit in this thing. There's no Skywalker in this thing, and that's all fucking awesome, right? It's been said a million times about Star Wars, and I'm not saying anything new, but like in a galaxy far, far away, not everything has to do with this one fucking guy, or, you know what I mean? Yes, I understand that Cassian's story is eventually going to lead up to getting the plans of the Death Star to Leia, which leads up to Luke. I understand that it's still connected, but it's not, there's nothing else going on here. There's nothing, we don't find out that Cassian is Luke's like long lost fucking third cousin twice removed. It doesn't happen. So I definitely recommend it, but what do I rate it? Well, let's rate this thing.
Are those your grades?
Yeah. I don't think that I deserved an F. Do you?
All right, so 0 to 5, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. As always on the pint, quarter and half scale optional. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5. It doesn't get to a 5 because not a lot of stuff gets to a 5. And maybe that last quarter point is just like a couple things that maybe you could have re-edited down, maybe gotten 1 or 2 episodes less. They're not going to put a show out that's 11 episodes, so I would assume if they were going to do it any shorter, it would have been 10. And I'm pretty sure they could have worked things around a little bit. But you know what? I'm not even mad at that. 12 episodes was fine. It came out weekly. I'm glad it did because I looked forward to it every week. And that's it for it. That's it. I enjoyed Andor. I think you should watch it. I think you'll enjoy it too. All right, we got some good stuff coming up the rest of this month. December, we got a couple of forgotten takeover episodes coming up and all other kinds of good stuff. And if you haven't heard yet, we're not doing January in 2023. It ain't happening. We're doing Van Damuary. That's right. So the entire month of what would normally be called January, and we are now calling Van Damuary, is going to be week after week 4 Jean-Claude Van Damme films: Bloodsport, Death Warrant, Time Cop, and Universal Soldier. We're going to have a good time with that. If I can get one more out, because here's the funny thing is I put it up for a vote on the Pint Insider. Again, don't forget Patreon/thepint, $2.50 a month. Get all kinds of cool stuff. I put it up for a vote. Would you guys want to see Van Damuary? Would you like to hear that? And everybody voted yes. And I had already picked the movies. I said to myself, I want to do 4 that I at least enjoy, so we have a fun time talking about them. Death Warrant is the only one that I picked as a kind of outside shot because I haven't seen that since it came out, and it's probably not great. But Bloodsport and Time Cop and Universal Soldier are all films I enjoy. So I thought, these will be fun. And then and then that'll be that. But then everybody is like, oh, you didn't do you're not doing Double Impact. You're not doing Hard Target. You're not doing, there was one other, Street Fighter. So maybe, on the Patreon, if we have time, we'll do one more episode and get that out in January as well. And I'll put it up to a vote. I'm going to pick those 3 movies because three guys, hit me up with that. Double Impact, Street Fighter, and Hard Target. So I'll put that up, and the Patreon folks, the Pint Insiders, can vote. Other than that, if you listen to the show weekly, continue. If this is your first episode, you like this, great. If you didn't like it, remember, it's usually me and my co-host Lloyd, or we have a bunch of other people come on. I don't do solo episodes a lot, so if this sucked, I apologize. But I had to get something out, and we've had a little bit of scheduling issues. And I wanted to talk about Andor, and Lloyd didn't watch it, so I wanted to get this out there. So that's really it. You could find us at Instagram, at The Pint Podcast. We're still on Twitter. We're still there. No blue check mark. We're not paying for that shit. If you pay for that shit, I'm not gonna say anything bad about you, but come on. You're fucking better than that. Most of you are better than that. Don't pay for that fucking blue check mark. It ain't gonna do nothing for you. But we are still there at The Pint Podcast, and on Facebook, The Pint Podcast, or The Pint, a pop culture podcast. You could find us there. So really, that's it. And we say one thing here at the end of every episode, and that's see ya. See ya!
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!